I sat there staring across the courtroom at Samantha, the woman who once held my hand during our first house showing. Now she sat next to her lawyer demanding $400,000 from me through a lawsuit built on twisted half-truths. 3 years ago, we talked about growing old together. Today she wanted to drain every penny I had earned. I never imagined someone I planned a future with would try to financially destroy me. But she made one fatal error. She forgot I kept receipts for everything. Before I tell you how this all went down, let me know where you are watching from in the comments below. Hit that like button and subscribe, because what happened in that courtroom will show you exactly what happens when greed meets justice. Now let me take you back to where it all started. Meeting Samantha felt like fate. It was 5 years back on a drizzly October morning in Portland, Oregon. I had stopped into a coffee shop near Powell's Books, shaking rain from my jacket. She was there sitting alone with a notebook sketching something I could not quite see. When she looked up, we locked eyes. Something clicked. We started talking about nothing important. The rain. The city. How Portland coffee shops always felt like safe havens. She mentioned working in marketing, helping local businesses build their brands. I told her about my job as a senior developer at a small tech startup. The conversation stretched from minutes into an hour. By the time I left, I had her number saved in my phone. Our first real date happened that weekend. We met at a Vietnamese restaurant in the Jade District. She ordered spring rolls and told stories about growing up in Eugene. I talked about learning to code in high school, how it saved me from boredom in a small town. Everything felt easy, natural, like we had known each other longer than 3 days. The relationship moved at a pace that felt right. After a year together, she brought up moving in. Her lease was ending. My apartment had an extra bedroom I used for storage. It made financial sense and emotional sense. Within a month, her things mixed with mine. Her plants filled the windowsills. Her laughter filled the quiet spaces I had gotten used to living alone. Those first 2 years shaped what I thought love was supposed to be. We explored hiking trails around Mount Hood, spent lazy Sundays cooking breakfast and reading the paper, argued about which streaming shows to watch. Normal couple things. I felt settled, content, ready to build something permanent. Then opportunity knocked harder than expected. A recruiter from a major Seattle tech firm reached out about a lead developer position. The role meant overseeing 12 engineers, architecting systems for a platform used by millions. The compensation jumped from $75,000 annually to $130,000. It represented everything I had worked toward since graduating college. When I showed Samantha the offer letter, her reaction surprised me with its enthusiasm. She grabbed my shoulders and told me I had to take it. No hesitation. She said we could make Seattle work. Her marketing firm had a Seattle office. We could transfer together, start fresh in a bigger city. Her confidence made the decision easier. We relocated that spring, found an apartment in Capitol Hill with exposed brick and high ceilings. Samantha transferred seamlessly. I dove into the new role with everything I had. Leading a team meant longer days, more meetings, code reviews that stretched past dinner time. I told myself it was temporary. Once I proved myself, once the team stabilized, I would find balance. But those long days turned into long weeks. Then months. I found myself staying at the office until 8 or 9 most evenings. Weekends involved answering urgent messages or troubleshooting production issues. The job consumed more space than I anticipated. Samantha started leaving comments, small ones initially, asking if I planned to work through another Saturday, wondering if I remembered we had dinner reservations, mentioning how her coworkers always seemed available for their partners. Each comment landed like a small stone, individually harmless. Collectively, they built into something heavier. She began comparing me unfavorably to other men. Todd from her office always left by 5:30. Brandon never missed his girlfriend's events. Marcus took spontaneous weekend trips without checking work email. I tried explaining that leading a team meant different responsibilities. that I needed to establish credibility, that it would not always be this intense. She would nod, but her eyes told me she stopped believing my promises. The distance between us widened gradually. Conversations shortened to logistics. Who would buy groceries? Whether to renew the parking pass. When the landlord needed access for repairs. We stopped talking about dreams or feelings, just maintained the machinery of cohabitation. Then in March, Samantha suggested buying property. She said renting felt wasteful, that we should invest in our future together. Part of me wondered if home ownership might reconnect us, give us a shared project, something tangible to work toward as a team. We spent February touring properties across Seattle. The market was competitive, prices climbing monthly. We found a 3-bedroom townhouse in Ballard that checked our boxes. Walking distance to restaurants and shops. A small backyard. Good bones. The listing price sat at $420,000. Sitting down with the mortgage broker meant facing hard numbers. We needed $84,000 for the down payment at 20%. I had been saving aggressively since my first job. Plus, my grandfather had passed 2 years prior, leaving me a modest inheritance I had invested carefully. My liquid assets totaled $336,000. Samantha had $84,000 saved. The math was straightforward. I could cover 80%. She would handle 20%. During the paperwork review, Samantha reached across the table and took my hand. She looked at the broker and said we wanted both names on the title as equal owners, that we were partners building something together. The broker glanced at me for confirmation. I looked at Samantha, saw the woman I had spent 3 years with, someone I believed I could trust completely. So I nodded. We signed the documents as equal owners despite wildly unequal contributions. We closed in late March. Moved in by early April. The first few weeks felt like playing house. We painted the guest bedroom together, argued about furniture placement, hosted friends for a housewarming barbecue. I thought maybe this was the reset we needed. By June, I noticed changes I could not ignore. Samantha's phone became an extension of her hand. She texted constantly, smiling at the screen in ways she had not smiled at me in months. When I asked who she was talking to so frequently, she said friends from Portland. Catching up. Nothing serious. A name kept appearing. Dylan. She mentioned him casually. Old co-worker. They had stayed in touch. I did not think much of it initially. People maintain friendships. But the frequency bothered me. The way she angled her phone away when I walked by. How she added a passcode I had never seen her use before. One night in late July, I woke around 2 in the morning. The bed beside me was empty. I heard muffled voices from down the hall. Following the sound led me to the bathroom door. Samantha was inside talking quietly but urgently into her phone. I caught fragments. Something about waiting. About things being complicated right now. About starting fresh soon. I knocked. The talking stopped abruptly. She emerged holding her phone against her chest, expression caught between guilt and anger. I asked who she was talking to at 2 in the morning. She accused me of spying on her private conversations. I accused her of hiding something. We stood in the hallway, voices rising, saying things designed to wound. She blamed my work schedule. Said I had abandoned her emotionally long before she looked elsewhere. I said she could have communicated instead of sneaking around. She said she tried, that I never listened. I said I was building a career, a future for us. She said there was no us anymore. Just me and my job. The fight ended with her sleeping in the guest bedroom. I lay awake watching dawn break through the blinds, replaying every moment of the past year, searching for where we broke. 2 weeks later, Samantha asked to talk seriously. We sat in the living room of the house we had owned for barely 5 months. She looked at me with an expression I could not read. Resignation, maybe. Or relief. She said she thought we should end the relationship, that we had become different people with incompatible lives. We discussed practical matters. She would stay in the guest room temporarily while we figured out the house situation. We agreed to list it for sale and divide whatever profit resulted. It seemed reasonable, civilized. I actually believed we could end things without destroying each other. The realtor came by the following week. She walked through the property, took measurements, checked comparable sales. The market had been strong. Our townhouse purchased 5 months earlier for $420,000, now appraised around $500,000. An $80,000 increase. Good timing for selling, I thought. Samantha and I met at the kitchen table one evening to review the listing details. That is when she dropped her bomb. She said she had been thinking carefully about how to split proceeds. I assumed we were on the same page. Sell the house. Divide the appreciation proportionally to our investment. She had other ideas. She wanted $250,000, half the current market value. I must have looked shocked because she immediately went defensive. She pointed out that her name appeared on the title, that legally she owned 50%, that she had lived here, maintained the space, made it feel like home. All of that had value, she argued. I tried staying calm, reminded her that she contributed $84,000 while I contributed $336,000, that our initial agreement acknowledged this difference. She did not care. She said I never appreciated what she brought beyond money, that I had pressured her to move to Seattle, disrupted her life, used her emotional labor. Now she deserved compensation. I refused. Told her the math did not work that way, that fair meant proportional, not equal. She stood abruptly, grabbing her purse. She said I would regret being greedy, that she would make sure I paid for undervaluing her contributions. Then she left. I sat alone in the kitchen, stunned. Told myself she was hurt and lashing out, that cooler heads would prevail once emotions settled. I was catastrophically wrong. The courier arrived on a Tuesday evening. I signed for a thick envelope, expecting maybe inspection documents or realtor contracts. Instead, I found a civil summons. Samantha was suing me. Reading through the complaint felt surreal. She was demanding $250,000 from the house sale, plus $100,000 for emotional distress, plus $50,000 for her contributions to our relationship. $400,000 total. More than our entire equity. The legal language painted me as a manipulative villain. Claimed I had financially controlled her, isolated her from support networks, pressured her into an exploitative property arrangement, then discarded her once I secured her investment. None of it reflected reality. But there it sat, officially filed with the court. My hands shook holding those papers. This woman I had loved, had trusted with my home, and my future was trying to financially ruin me. I needed help immediately. I called every family law attorney I could find the next morning. Most were booked out for weeks. Finally, I secured an appointment with Gregory Powell. His office occupied an older downtown building with marble lobbies and wooden elevators, the kind of place that felt serious. Gregory was maybe 50 years old, gray hair cropped short, wire-rimmed glasses. He read through Samantha's complaint methodically while I sat across his desk, leg bouncing with nervous energy. When he finished, he set the papers down and looked at me directly. He called it a gold digger situation. Said she was betting I would settle rather than endure a public trial. He asked what evidence I had to counter her claims. I spent an hour detailing everything. Bank statements proving the 80-20 down payment split. Email chains discussing the house purchase where we both acknowledged the arrangement. Mortgage statements showing I paid every monthly installment alone. Utility bills in my name exclusively. Receipts for every repair and upgrade. I had kept meticulous records, a habit from my engineering work. Now those records were my defense. Gregory reviewed everything with approval. He said this evidence was strong, but we needed more. We had to prove she had ulterior motives, that her lawsuit was about greed, not justice. I did not understand initially. He explained we needed to show premeditation, evidence she had planned this outcome before our breakup. He asked if I knew anyone in private investigation work. I thought of Marcus. We had gone to college together. He went into investigative work after graduation, while I chose software. I called him that evening. Explained the situation over coffee. Marcus did not seem surprised. He said people get strange when money enters the picture. He told me to give him 3 weeks. Those 3 weeks felt endless. I went through the motions at work. Came home to the house that had become a battlefield. Avoided everywhere Samantha and I had gone together. The listing for the property sat inactive because potential buyers sensed the legal mess underneath. Marcus finally called. Said he had found something significant. We met at his office in Bellevue. He slid a thick folder across his desk. Inside was a timeline of Samantha's activities over the previous 6 months. Photographs showed her with Dylan. Not friendly, casual photos. These were intimate. Dinner dates at romantic restaurants, weekend getaways to the coast, hotel check-ins. The timestamp started in June, 2 full months before she asked for our breakup. But the photographs were not even the most damaging evidence. Marcus had uncovered email exchanges between Samantha and an attorney, a different one than her current representation. These emails dated back to late July. She was asking about property rights in unmarried domestic partnerships, how to maximize settlements, whether emotional distress claims held merit. The attorney had advised her to document everything carefully, to build a case. Then there were text messages. Marcus had gotten them from a mutual friend of Samantha's who felt uncomfortable with the situation. In one exchange, the friend asked if Samantha felt guilty. Her response was chilling. She wrote that once she got the money from the house, she and Dylan could finally start their life together properly. That I made enough money that I would be fine. I read through everything twice. The betrayal was worse than I imagined. She had calculated this, planned it methodically, used me. Now she wanted to take everything I had built. I asked Marcus if this was admissible in court. He confirmed most of it was. The photographs came from public locations. The emails were discoverable through legal channels since she had shared them with an attorney. The texts came from a willing witness. I called Gregory immediately. He reviewed the evidence, and his professional demeanor cracked into genuine surprise. He said this was better than he hoped, that Samantha would have no credible explanation. The trial date landed in mid-October. As it approached, my anxiety intensified. I had never been involved in litigation beyond jury duty. The thought of facing Samantha publicly, of having our private failures examined by strangers, made me nauseous. But she had forced this confrontation. October arrived cold and wet. I dressed in my only suit and drove downtown through heavy rain. Gregory met me outside the courthouse. He reminded me to stay composed regardless of what Samantha said, to let him handle the speaking, to simply be honest and steady. Inside the courtroom was smaller than I expected. Wood paneling everywhere. Rows of benches mostly empty except for Marcus, and a few people I did not recognize. The judge's bench sat elevated at the front. I took my seat beside Gregory. Across the aisle, Samantha sat with her attorney, Diane Fisher. I had not seen Samantha in person since the lawsuit started. She had cut her hair shorter, wore a conservative navy dress, minimal jewelry, clearly crafted to appear sympathetic. When our eyes met briefly, I saw nothing familiar. No remnant of the years we spent together. Just cold calculation. The judge entered. On her right, according to her nameplate. A woman in her mid-60s with silver hair pulled back tightly. Her expression revealed nothing as she reviewed the case file. She opened by stating this was a civil suit regarding property division and damages. She invited Diane Fisher to present her opening statement. Diane stood confidently. She was polished and articulate. She laid out Samantha's narrative with emotional weight. How Samantha had sacrificed her Portland life to support my career advancement. How I had promised to provide for her financially. How I had manipulated her into accepting an unfair property deal. How the breakup had caused severe emotional trauma deserving compensation. Then Gregory presented our opening. He spoke factually without dramatics. He outlined the numbers, the actual contributions, the documented agreements, the payment history. He said this was not about love gone wrong. This was about financial opportunism. The evidence would prove it. Samantha testified first. Under Diane's questioning, she painted herself as a victim. She cried, describing how isolated she felt in Seattle, how I worked constantly while ignoring her needs, how she believed we were building a future together before I cast her aside. She insisted her emotional and domestic contributions justified the money she demanded. I watched, forcing myself to remain neutral. Some of what she said contained grains of truth. I had worked extensively. I had been distant sometimes. But the narrative she constructed twisted everything to serve her goal. Gregory cross-examined her next. He started with basic facts. When we purchased the house, how much each of us contributed. She answered carefully, clearly coached. Then Gregory shifted tone. He asked if she was in a romantic relationship with anyone else during the months before our breakup. She hesitated, said she did not see the relevance. Gregory smiled slightly, asked her to please answer. She glanced at Diane, who nodded. She admitted reconnecting with an old friend. But nothing serious. Gregory returned to our table and retrieved a folder. He asked if this friend was named Dylan. She confirmed. He asked if they began seeing each other romantically in June. She said she could not remember exact dates. Gregory approached the bench with copies of the photographs. He submitted them as exhibits showing Samantha and Dylan together at various locations between June and September, including hotels. The judge examined the photos. Samantha's face drained of color. Gregory continued. He asked if she consulted an attorney about property rights in late July. She said she may have asked general questions. Gregory submitted the email records. He noted they showed her asking specifically how to maximize a financial settlement from me, 3 weeks before she initiated our breakup. The courtroom went silent, except for rustling papers. Diane objected repeatedly, but the judge allowed the evidence. Finally, Gregory submitted the text messages. He read one aloud. Once I get the money from the house, Dylan and I can finally start our life together. He looked at Samantha, asked if that sounded like someone seeking fair compensation or someone executing a calculated plan. Samantha had no good answer. She stammered about context being missing. But the damage was complete. When she left the witness stand, she stared at the floor. I testified next. Gregory asked straightforward questions. I answered honestly. Yes, I worked long hours. Yes, our relationship struggled. But no, I never promised indefinite financial support. No, I never manipulated her regarding the house purchase. I explained the down payment arrangement, the monthly expenses, all supported by documents. Diane tried painting me as cold and mercenary during cross-examination. I stayed calm. I acknowledged my failings without accepting responsibility for her choices. When I stepped down, I felt I had finally told my truth after months of accusations. Closing arguments were brief. Diane focused on emotional elements trying to salvage something. Gregory simply pointed at the evidence, the numbers, the timeline, the proof of premeditation. Judge Wright took 15 minutes to deliberate. When she returned, her expression was stern. She looked directly at Samantha. She said she had presided over many property disputes, but she rarely encountered this level of calculated deception. The evidence clearly showed Samantha had planned this lawsuit months in advance while conducting a separate relationship and consulting attorneys about financial gain. The judge continued. She found no basis for claims of emotional distress or relationship contributions beyond what Samantha already received through cohabitation. Regarding property division, while both names appeared on the title, the financial contributions were demonstrably unequal. My heart pounded as Judge Wright outlined her ruling. Samantha was entitled to her initial down payment of $84,000 plus interest at market rate, totaling approximately $92,000. All other claims were dismissed. Furthermore, due to the frivolous nature of the lawsuit and evidence of bad faith, Samantha had to pay $20,000 toward my legal fees. Samantha's face crumbled. Diane looked stunned. Gregory maintained a neutral expression, but I caught satisfaction in his eyes. The judge banged her gavel. Court adjourned. Filing out, I avoided looking at Samantha. I heard her crying, arguing desperately with Diane in hushed tones. Marcus clapped my shoulder quietly. Gregory shook my hand and said keeping good records had saved me. Outside, the rain had stopped. Gray clouds remained, but lighter somehow. I stood on the courthouse steps and breathed deeply. It was finished. Finally finished. The weeks following the verdict passed quickly. The house sold within 3 weeks. Final price was $510,000. After paying off the mortgage covering Samantha's court-ordered amount and handling legal fees, I walked away with approximately $380,000. Not my full investment, but enough. More importantly, I was free. I purchased a smaller condo in Fremont. 2 bedrooms, 1 bathroom. A small balcony overlooking the street. Just mine. Only my name on the title. Only my investment. The relief I felt signing those papers alone was indescribable. Emotional recovery took longer. For weeks, anger would surface unexpectedly. Anger at Samantha for the betrayal, anger at myself for missing the signs, anger at the entire situation, but gradually anger transformed into acceptance. She had made her choices. I had made mine. We both lived with the consequences. Work became an anchor. My company promoted me to Director of Engineering in December. The career that supposedly destroyed my relationship had actually saved me. It provided financial stability, purpose direction forward. Marcus and I grew closer. He refused full payment for his investigation work, saying justice was payment enough. We met regularly for drinks, talking about everything except Samantha. Even Gregory checked in occasionally. Strange to think my worst experience connected me with genuinely good people. I returned to abandoned hobbies, photography, hiking. I spent weekends exploring the Cascades with my camera, capturing landscapes that had nothing to do with relationships or lawsuits or betrayal. Just mountains and trees and sky. Those trips reminded me who I was before everything. Months later, I heard through acquaintances that Samantha and Dylan had ended. Apparently, he did not appreciate being involved in a legal scandal. She moved back to Portland. I never asked for details. Her life was no longer my concern. I learned things from that experience. Hard, valuable things. Trust must be earned through consistent action, not just words. Protecting yourself legally is not cynical, but necessary. Sometimes people closest to you become the ones who hurt you most. Justice, while imperfect, can still prevail when you defend yourself. The biggest lesson was about moving forward. I could have stayed bitter. Could have let that betrayal define future relationships, but that would have given Samantha power she did not deserve. Instead, I saw it as a painful but necessary lesson. A chapter that closed so a better one could begin. I am more careful now. Not closed off, but cautious. I notice red flags. I protect my assets. I ensure agreements are clear and documented. Some might call that cold. I call it wisdom. Love does not require blind faith. Real partnership respects both contributions and protects both interests. Do I regret those 3 years sometimes? But mostly I am grateful for what I learned. About myself, about what I want, about what I will and will not accept. That knowledge is worth more than any settlement. Standing in my own space, now living my own life, I realize something. Samantha tried destroying me to build her life with someone else, but she destroyed herself instead. Her greed cost her money, reputation, relationships. Meanwhile, I rebuilt, stronger, wiser, free. Sometimes people who try tearing you down end up tearing themselves apart. The best response is not revenge or bitterness. It is living well, moving forward, building something real that nobody can take from you. That is the real victory. Not the court ruling, but the life you create after everything settles. Have you ever dealt with a lawsuit from someone you trusted? How did you protect yourself when someone tried taking what you built? Drop your story in the comments below. I would love to hear how you handled it. If this resonated with you, smash that like button and share this with anyone who needs to hear that. Standing up for yourself is always worth it. Subscribe for more real stories about fighting back when life tries knocking you down. Thank you for listening to my story. I hope it shows you that when people attack you with lies, truth is your strongest weapon. Protect yourself always. Never apologize for defending what is rightfully yours. Stay strong out there. Until next time.